Welcome to the Monday edition of our Sales Dojo here. Today we're joined by everybody. So don't want to take the roll call here, be doing it too long, but we've been super slammed this morning. I'm going to be honest with you. I have nothing prepped. I have one little thing, and it's more of a philosophical thing, not necessarily a sales training or Medicare training, but it's just kind of something that I heard this weekend that really stuck, and I'm sure that everybody's got a good story behind theirs. But Victoria, you actually had something here. You're doing something cool this morning. What were you doing?
Yeah, I've brought some new agents or newish agents on board, and just kind of sorting out for them, what's important and what's not. What's priority, which is the conversation and the discovery, and really and truly all you need to know are the basics of Medicare, the core to get you started. You don't have to know everything about Medicare, and you'll learn along the way. It's mainly my message to them.
Mm-hmm. You know, what's funny is we had a guy that came in for an interview today here for a spot. And immediately, my first question when I talk to all these people, I go, tell me a little bit about yourself. And guess what he jumped right into? His work history. And like using keywords and synergy and things like that. And I'm just like, I'm giving him enough rope where I'm finally just like, okay, please stop. In my head, I'm like, As he's talking about all this stuff, I'm like, I don't care. I don't care that you memorized your resume in front of you when I asked you to explain or tell me a little bit about Mike, and you go word for word for your resume. You do your elevator pitch, your 90 seconds there with me. But this guy just kept going on. And finally I go, okay, that's good. But now tell me about yourself. He goes, well, I just did. And I go, no, like, what are your hobbies? What makes you you? Because the people that come in for interviews, that's always my very first question, because we're in relationship selling. We're not in statistical selling. Here they're buying you because you're going to stay around for as long as they're going to be on Medicare. It's Mike, kind of like your history with, dealerships and things like that. Everybody needs a car every, 3, 5, 6, 7 years or something. Were you guys keeping in touch with the people that y'all were selling 6 months down the road, year down the road? Because they were doing relationship selling. Sure, there's other dealerships out there that probably don't do that, where it's all statistical. We just need new business in. They got to get one eventually anyway. So come in here, talk to us, and then, okay, leave with your car. Bye. Never hear from you again. So for him that came in, he had an okay personality. He had an okay personality.
He sold me on his personality. That's why I knew I wanted him to be with us, because the resume, the longevity is there, the experience.
Oh, I wasn't talking about you, Mike, with the person. I was talking no. I was talking about the interview that we had.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What I was saying is he sold me on his personality. His resume, the basics were there. That was enough for me to know that, on paper he looked good. I wanted to know about the real Mike, who he was, what his life was like. He was married, his interests and things like that, and whether or not he was a fan of the Cowboys or not was a make or break. He doesn't care either way, FYI. So. Mm-hmm. We're neutral on that stance, in case you were concerned. Right. But I want to know about him, and that's him as a person. That's what I was sold on.
Mm-hmm. And that was what got me with the person that came in, where I was like, okay, give me something interesting. Like, quit talking about work. Just give me something interesting. And then finally, I had to be, what are your hobbies? He's like, well, I like working out. I'm like, okay, what else? He goes, well, it's like, doing chores and stuff. I'm like,
he likes doing chores.
Ooh, I'm like, ooh.
Weirdo.
Seriously, me too.
Remember that
guy? Chore schedule.
Remember the guy that Frank asked, who shall be named, what was it? What does he like? Just name anything in this whole world that he likes. Anything, anyone. And for about 20 minutes. I'm like, is this guy still thinking of something? And eventually he came up with potato salad.
That's exactly, yeah. Oh,
Of all things.
that person, they were,
True story.
they could have gotten a ARP old underwriting plan easy.
he
on
wouldn't
that
have,
one.
he wouldn't have qualified with it.
Yeah, but-
But
but no, that was just really funny from this morning, where because you kind of see it, and I even did the Brandon. I used your line here where it's I don't want to hire you, but if you start checking things off, then okay, then we're gonna get there. But as for this right now, I don't really want to work with you because I don't know you as a person. I don't know how you're gonna be. You know, you can get pretty confident and do that on a sales call too. There's like this sales call and say, well, I don't want to have to sell you because then that means you got everything you need. But if you don't, then I can step in and do it. It's the same thing with the job interview. And that line and that kind of philosophy really works well because it shows you, look, we're not doing any BS here. Not here to waste your time, but I'm not going to waste my time. I got other stuff I can do, or other projects that need to go on, or people I need to call back. I got other stuff to do than sitting here in a conference room or in an office with you for 30, 45 minutes just shooting it. Okay, so I'm going to jump in right away. Same thing with sales calls too. If you have that urgency, but you can also have that confidence behind it here to where, look, you know, we can go on for, you know, hour, 2 hours or so, which is terrific. But at the end of the day, if I don't know from the very beginning, if you're even on Medicare, you know, you could be 35 and you randomly clicked on a Facebook ad. And now we're talking. And you know what? We got a great relationship, but I can't do anything for the time that I've been spending with you. You know, there's no payback. So keep that in mind. Anybody else have anything interesting this morning or this weekend that they want to talk about? Mike, what'd you do?
I had personal, but I'm going to tell you. I broke a toe. Right? So, now this weekend I'm recovering from that part of that. I had big toenails removed.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been working, and I've been telling Victoria, some days I'm soaking my socks. Yeah. I don't want to come in here with flip flops. So this weekend I had it's like a homemade soak your feet massage thing. That was the best part of my weekend.
Oh,
Good.
So there you go, like soaking my toes.
yes.
That's
But
all right.
it feels so much better, I'm sure.
I tell you what the pro move is you take your significant other, you take him to the nail salon. But like for me and Michelle, I go and I'm like, you know what? You get the full package. I let her get the full package because as long as she's sitting there, they got to do something to me too. They can't single me out and just be like, we'll rub your feet for 30 minutes, even though she's here for an hour. And that last, other 30 minutes, that turns into 45, 50, and then they're still bringing you drinks and everything like that. So anytime she wants to go,
It's pampered.
I never let her go by herself. I go with her. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go too. I'm gonna go too.
Yeah.
You get a little extra time there. Yeah, Brad, you had a life alert scare.
Well, yeah, you never know.
Oh, did you fall?
Worse.
I slept, yard
You
work.
couldn't get back up.
You
You couldn't get up,
put
yeah.
down some heat loss, and I'm hot, sweaty, and slippery. And I don't know what happened, but I slipped, and then I hit my shin on the metal edging.
Oh, golly.
And then instead of going backwards, I just elected to go forwards. The only problem is there's a wall there, and I did like one of these headbutts right into the wall. And I thought I had, messed things up, but I feel okay. But it's, I have a habit of messing up my shins. I'm always whacking my shins with something. But, the bottom line is you have to be careful, and my wife is all over. I told you never to wear flip-flops when you're out there. Well, it's so freaking hot, man. I hate wearing gym shoes. But, yeah, you just have to be sensible about things. In the seniors that we deal with, those they can relate to that stuff.
Right.
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 I get the point. I hire people now for whatever. I still like to mess around and do my own stuff, but you have to be careful, especially with power tools and things like that. Things happen. Things happen to everybody. People say, oh, I'm healthy. You know, I've got jog and golf and everything. I'm not on any meds. I'm great. But you know what? Tomorrow you might have a stroke. You might break a hip. You know, you might slip and fall. These things happen. But, you know, those kind of conversations, I always bring up stuff that happens to me. These clients want to know you just like you want to know them. You know, I tell clients, hey, I just had cataract surgery. Well, that's a whole conversation because they've been through that stuff. And how did it go? What kind of lens did you get? You know, it goes on and on. Talk about family stuff, grandkids, whatever. You know, that's so important. You know, getting down to business, it's kind of an art, really. When do you slot that into the conversation? You know, how do you transverse from a conversation, okay, now we're going to talk business, you know, and that's something that you really have to feel, you know, with the clients, where's their head at? They might say, okay, you know, what do you got? You know, what do you got for me here? And they'll cut it off. You can cut it off, but you want to have a smooth transition to that and kind of work it in, have a nice segue. But I guess that comes from time. But like we've been talking about here, the most important thing is that small talk, that relationship. They want to know you're human. They want to know you're not reading a script. And, you know, it's somebody that you want to hang out on the front porch with. You know, and that's seems to work the best.
That's good. That's good little insight. Laura, I know you had something to bring up.
Well, I was just reading. I tend to read through a lot of sales books, like the Little Red Book for Sales and all that stuff, and it just kind of sharpens my skills a little bit. And I was listening to an audiobook while I was out this past couple of weeks because I had to do something, and I was learning about, relearning about motivation and, you know, why people do the things that they do. And basically it narrowed it down to two very large categories. You know, people are motivated. Motivation is the reason to, or to move or to do. So people are motivated by one of two things. They either want to avoid loss or acquire potential gain. So with that, knowing that they either want to go towards the light or run from something that's harming them, it's statistically proven that people work a lot harder to avoid potential loss, unfortunately, than to get a gain. So if you're trying to win an argument on the phone with people, you know, because we've always got those people that everything is right for them, and for some reason they just won't do it. And it's frustrating to me. It's like wildly frustrating. But this reminded me, you know, if you're ever trying to win an argument based on your advice making sense, it's just not going to work. It's not going to work at all. People make decisions based on how they feel. You know, does it feel right for them? So one of the things that they said is to change the verbiage to how would you feel if, and then give them a scenario. You know, if it's somebody that's really driven, which is apparently few and far between, statistically proven, then it's, you know, how would you feel if you could save this much, this much, this much? If it's something the opposite, which helps with going from Medicare Advantage to supplement. So if it's something they're running from something, how would you feel if a catastrophic event happened and you couldn't see the doctor you wanted to see? That's going to, I guess, help them to visualize the scenario and make them drive more towards what their heart desires, essentially.
Right.
So it's just, I don't know, it's things that, of course, I learned way early on because I've always been in sales, but it's good to sharpen up on verbiage and how you talk to people and, you know, how you engage. It's like you said, how they relate to you.
I think a lot with that too, you know, we talk about not pushing fear-based sales, but that's what a lot of healthcare sales are. Everything is fear-based. You know, we're not trying to be Freddy Krueger in your nightmares But you have to have a
Yeah.
realistic situation that, hey, if you know, like we were talking about last week with those cancer policies, you know, more than likely you're going to get cancer. It's just when it's going to happen. And here's what that roadmap is going to look like with treatments, with hotel stays, with hospitals, with doctor selection. This is what it's all going to look like. But something that took me a while to kind of learn about that is finding out just through the conversation which one of those persons, like
Right,
how they're
which one,
interacting.
what personality they are.
Mhm. So
Mhm.
like I told the story about the lady who she was getting double billed by the only primary care doctor in town, and she had a supplement, but he was putting in double the bills, and it took her like 2 months, and she just got so fed up. She canceled her plan G. You know, she's pretty healthy gal, but she went ahead and canceled it. And I called her up and I'm like, why'd you cancel? And she's like, well, I just kept getting double billed, and we only have one doctor in town. So it's a small town, and he's this new guy, and he does all this shady stuff, and keeps going. And then finally in my head, I just cut her off and I go, you have an issue with control.
Mm.
Kind of like I did to you when we were
Mhm.
talking in the office about a month ago. I was like, your issue is you don't think you're in control of your healthcare. You don't think you're in control of your career. But people, I think they actually enjoy it because it shows that you're actively listening, but you're kind of piecing together what they didn't think about.
Right.
Because
therapy session.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Mhm.
Sometimes.
it is. It's some people call it just a complaint because they know we'll answer. Because they ain't got any. Because if anybody else tries to call me to just complain, oh man, I've had a bad click. I don't care. Go get a therapist, or start paying me $50 an hour, however much therapy costs now.
It's just, yeah.
Well, but that's something quick where if you can kind of really be able to kind of see where things are going, or as to kind of why are you the way you are. I know I've said that a lot lately, but in trying to kind of just have some fun, but also really stress about what we're actually talking about here. Because if you're talking to me about control, or Mike, I'll use you for an example here. Okay. If everything that we're talking about is control, you know, you just want to be able to do what you want to do and not be told you can't. But I don't pick up on that. And I'm trying to push down your throat savings. It's not going to work.
Mm-mm.
Right.
It's not. You know, I dare one of you, I'm not going to dare everybody here, go to one of those advertisements for Medicare Advantage or Medicare Supplement, whatever it is. Put your phone number in there
Oh.
and see the level of calls that you get. But no, but just to see, because everybody does the same thing. They shove savings and additional benefits down your throat. They are not advertising a personal touch. They are not advertising an agent. They are more worried about flipping a product for you.
Mhm.
That's why I think we were talking about marketing too a while back. I think really all of us here, this should be the marketing. It's not help you with Medicare Advantage during AEP. It's not save money on your supplement. If you really want to hit home with a whole lot of people, you market Laura Camacho. You market Kim. You market Brad. You market Victoria, because this is the person that you're actually going to be interacting with, who is going to be helping you. So you're not calling in for a savings, which there might be, but you're calling in to say, I want to work with Penny Saylor.
Mhm.
And I want to keep her. That's where I think now we're just getting on a different topic here. That's where I think the industry as a whole with marketing needs to shift, especially with the new regulations now that are coming out that are going to start October 1st with phone recordings, with the disclosures, with marketing materials, everything like that. I'm working on a little when and how to for you guys as well, because it's not going to be on every single call. Because like supplements, you don't have to have that disclosure. If you're talking to an individual with a Plan G, it doesn't matter because we're not talking about Medicare Advantage plans.
Right.
We're not, you know, and same thing with if you're doing a final expense call, whatever it is. But the second that Medicare Advantage comes up, boom, you got to do it. You have to. It's kind of what it's going towards. But
That's what I was going to ask you, but I guess it's redundant. Like if you have a synopsis or a summary of what's changing and.
so really, just so you guys know, I've seen the statistic where I think it's like 0.3% is what the actual fraud rate is for stuff that gets sent to Medicare to review. It's not as prevalent as people think, but they are putting on the stops this year to make it more difficult for everybody. So starting October 1st, every interaction has to be recorded. Now, we already have that ability. This is why I told you to use the Mediphone, not your cell phone, because we're going to start that October 1st. We already can record. We are in Texas. That is a one-party state. That is why we don't have to disclose it, because we're the ones that are consenting to the recording. Now, if we were in a different state like California where there's two-party, then we would have to say it every call. But we already have that portion taken care of. So if you ever are working from home or something like that, or somehow a client has your cell phone, if you're talking Medicare, it has to be on our phone. Because at the end of the day, if you do something for an enrollment where you're discussing, plans or benefits, whatever it is, and it's not recorded, the carrier or Medicare can go in and say, no, we need your call recording attached to this. Because I think you guys at your old company, I think they used to do that as like the scope of appointment, where it was a verbal, but then they had to save the recording and then link the recording to the application and then submit the application to the carrier.
What about text? If they text you, texts are saved. So
Text is fine because you have it saved.
saved.
Phone
Just
call, you don't
saved.
have anything saved.
Right.
So that's why, number one, every bit of business that is conducted. Now, if they're just calling in saying, hey, I have a referral for you, perfect. Have them call this number, this other number here. Or if they try and shoot right into business, say, hey, just legally, I have to call. Let me call you from my work phone real quick, just because everything has to be recorded. Medicare makes us do it. And then just call from. But that's number one. Number two is with the disclosure for Medicare Advantage, to where if you do not represent every single Medicare Advantage plan in that area, then you have to read that disclosure the first minute of the call. So,
Or as soon as the Medicare Advantage comes
or
up.
as soon as it pops up, correct. Just like when you have scope of appointment. We do scope of appointment now. Once the scope is signed, the only thing that you are legally allowed to talk about is what is on that scope. If you have, that's why every time we do a scope, we select everything because we don't know where it's going to end up. Now, final expense is not on a scope. That's why you have to disconnect the call and then call them back if you're doing final expense. But if it is trending towards the Medicare Advantage conversation, then that is when you have to read the disclosure that I do not represent every plan offered in your area. To see that list, please go to medicare.gov or call their phone number, whatever it is, and then move on with your presentation. So really nothing changes from what we're doing already. It might throw in a 2-sentence, 3-sentence statement, and then maybe on an email too. I'm going to see how I can work that into the signature.
Don't we have to tell them what they're being recorded?
No, because we're a one-party state.
Because we're Texas.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. So if we're operating a different state, then yes, we would have to be
But it
the
doesn't matter what state we're calling.
Correct.
Just because we are
one party.
located in Texas.
Correct.
Got it.
One party. That's right. Not two party, one party. You got something, Mike?
One party.
That's right. Just one. Just one. Okay. So that's it.
We're
So
a republic, damn it. That's why.
We can succeed at any time, right? We just have to vote for it.
all right. So let's go around the room a little bit. Kim, how you doing? Any struggles? Anything coming up recently? Any obstacles that you've been running into?
I can't really think of a scenario. Unfortunately, there's just not a whole lot of contact in order to kind of have some outcomes to talk about. But I will say, to Brad's point earlier, is that I've often found where I'm not quite sure how to start talking business when you've got a talker and they just want to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. I built the rapport. They're feeling free tell me everything, and then and I don't think they're ever gonna say, okay, now what, let's get down to business, that's gonna have to come from me. And I don't think I've ever turned anybody off with it, but there are times when I feel like that I did not transition that well at all. It's always kind of a sticky situation of when to bring them back, even though we've never been on that road yet because we're building rapport. So that was a good point that I always kind of struggle with a little bit when somebody just wants to be your friend.
And it's so true, because it does kind of come back to that, you're gaining control, because that is what goes into the whole script with our whole mindset, our whole way of approaching how we sell, is that, we're going to be in control, because what we recommend to you is going to be your best option. So that's why when we're quoting you, we're not, all right, let's start at AERP. Okay, they're $100. All right, Aetna is 101. Cigna's 103. Which one do you want? We're not doing that. It's saying, look, AERP is your best plan, because we're creating that control. And that's something that can take time. You can take a little refresher. It really just depends. But once you kind of start thinking numerically with it, is, we can go off on this hour and a half tangent. But in this time that we're doing this, you have to look for certain things where you can pull out and say, okay, so we're not adding another 30 minutes talking about what we don't need to talk about. Let me get your attention for 5, then we can go back to it. As I always tell people too, when you're doing like applications and stuff like that, usually you have everything in the account by then. You got zip code, you might have to get MBI, checking, things like that. That's the perfect time to start your cool down and just have a conversation. It is. Because what are you doing? You're copying and pasting, and you're clicking buttons, and that's it. There's no active, you're not having to resell as you're going, because you already sold it in the first place. You're not asking if it's still okay, and you're halfway through the application, or is it okay if I get your checking account, or is it okay if you tell me your social security number? You've already made that control. So when you say, okay, I'm going to need your social, that they just go ahead and say it. So with it, you're right, Kim. It's something that it's a very delicate art, because you don't want to step on anybody's toes. You really don't. But I showed Mike from an example. I think it was back on Thursday or so, where he was on the phone with the guy that was turning 65, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I know that there's Advantage plans, and I know that there's supplement plans, but I haven't done too much information with it." Kept going. I told Mike, immediately when he said that, you should have gone, "Oh, I can help with that. I can help clear that up for you. Do you have a piece of paper? Okay. I'll teach you everything you need to know about in 30 minutes. Here's your difference." But it's having those click in your head. And if you guys notice it too, like during training, or if you're on phone calls now and you ask me for help and to hop on, I look for those little bitty things like that, and then we run with them. Because if you're going on that, path where you're talking for 20 or 30 minutes, just talking, sure, that's terrific. You're building great rapport, but rapport don't pay the bills. At the end of the day, we're sales agents. We make money by submitting policies. Now, does it help when you're very friendly and you have a good rapport and you are a good person? Absolutely, it helps. But at the end of the day, none of us are here because we get paid money to be nice to people. We get paid money to submit policies. That's just the game. That's what it is. But in that 30 minutes to an hour, you have to look for that and say, okay, at some point, I've already got you. I know you're going to buy from me. I just need to get to that scenario is what you need. So like we're talking with Mike, you have to look for those little bitty things like that where there's an error or they don't know something. You say, I can help with that and keep going. But vice versa too. When you were doing this, and luckily Mike and I, we kind of had this heart to heart on why we do things a certain way. But if somebody calls in and they're turning 65 and they're worried about their prescription plan first, what do we say in there? We'll get to it. We just got other things to do first. And it finally clicked when Mike was like, why do you want to do supplement first? If they just want the drug plan or they just want a dental plan, just go ahead and do it. And I was like, because it pays us the most money. And you, exactly. And he was like, that finally makes so much sense to me. It's because, so that's why you did that. And I was like, yes, because it pays the most money. So it goes, let's do your supplement. Let's do your final expense. Let's do, cancer, hospital indemnity, whatever it is, dental vision, then drug plan. But the people who take the bait and say, okay, let's do your drug plan, you might get the drug plan. They go, okay, thanks, bye. And then you do nothing. So you have to be able to, I really like that you brought that up because I didn't recognize it. It was just so ingrained in me because Mike just kept asking. He was like, why? Like, what's the whole point of this? Why? And I go, oh, it's right. It's because we do get paid by selling stuff.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, there was the bulb.
Yeah.
But also the supplement is really the core. It will tell you so much, because somebody might be like, yeah, I want a cancer policy because I know my health insurance won't let me just go to MD Anderson or something. You go, well, actually, let's bring it on back to your supplement. It will let you do that and, maybe retrain them and reteach them. Obviously, they didn't have the knowledge they needed to know that they didn't. That's not what a cancer policy is about. And you're just kind of bringing it back in and dealing with one thing at a time.
Mm.
I think the best way to gain control is through those selector questions.
Absolutely.
You can always ask them questions, and that's how you regain the control. Some people blah 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 blah. You can ask them questions; they'll just keep blah blah blah. And that you just have to rein it in. Let's get back down to business here real quick. Or I'll usually say I've got a meeting to go to in 10 minutes. We need to kind of figure out what you need to do here. But if you use those selector questions properly, you'll find out what they need to do and what's important to them, and then you can address that and then work into the business mode very easily.
That kind of goes back to what you were talking about, how certain people, there's two types of motivation, and it's either fear or gain. With a lot of those selector questions, a lot of people that make the choices are off fear. Off fear-based, fear of not being able to see the doctor that they want, fear of getting a $7,000 bill, fear of going into the hospital 3 times and having to pay 3 Part A deductibles. A lot of it is, and you kind of hate to say it, fear-based selling. But then you have to remember what we're doing here. Is anybody happy about going to the doctor? Anybody here love to go to the doctor? Raise your hand. Absolutely love. If you had a day off and you could spend it at the doctor's office, you would go. Absolutely not. Do you want to go to your doctor every day? No, you don't. And it goes back to, it's not anything tangible. Insurance is not. It's just a number on a card, a policy number. That's all it is. But everybody's got to have it because we don't know what's going to happen. You don't. You could be like Brad. Brad could have fractured his skull yesterday. Now he's got a plan G. They'll be fine though. They'll bandage him up. Yeah, and a hard head too. Yeah. Bonnie would have probably liked it. Knock some sense back into you. But
she was loving it because she was on me for wearing the flip flops.
It's because she was right. Yeah, exactly. Just go and run with it. But get it, run with it with wet flip flops. There we go. But it kind of goes back to that too. It's like Brad when he sold himself his policy too. He knows the numbers. He does everything like that. But I tell you, he's worried that if he didn't get it, what he would have to pay if he has to go to the doctor. Because he's like me, I don't want to have to go to a doctor. So if you have to go to a doctor continuously, that means something's wrong. And that's what people don't want. You can't have active avoidance of doctors, active avoidance of healthcare. But
you wouldn't have had that worry about the ER that you didn't go because you were suddenly feeling better when you saw what your out-of-pocket was.
Well, yeah,
you wouldn't have had that at all.
Exactly. That and the Pedialyte.
Right.
See, and it's so funny you say that because going back to it, if people can laugh at your own pain in you doing it, because they go through the same thing too, where they're freaking out because they don't know if such and such is going to be covered or what's going on. If you can use that real life example, it really hits home with them because it also humanizes you. You know, one of my favorite guys that I work with out of Dallas, you know, he's 65 right now, and he had like 2 or 3 billing issues that weren't his stuff. It was prior to it, and he just loves to ask questions. Like, I just want to hug this guy. Love this. Like take him out to lunch, talk about gardening. Just absolutely love this guy. But every time he calls me, he thinks he's the worst person ever because he's taking up my time. And he's like, "Are you busy right now?" And I'm like, "No, I'm fine." He's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yes, like everything is okay." And he was like, I just don't want to take up too much time. So I've already taken enough time. And I'm like, "Buddy, talk. Talk to me. Okay, talk to me. What's going on?" And this was about a week ago. And Andrew had him on the phone. And I was like, "Oh, let me just pop over there. Let me put your headset on." He was like, "Do I need to do anything next month?" And I go, "Oh, no, bud, you're good. Nothing changes for you. Just keep an eye out. If your drug plan, if they send you something in the mail saying that their rates are going up, or if their drugs, they're not covering the same formulary or different tiers, just keep an eye out for it. That's all you have to do." And he's like, "That's it?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I don't have to change anything." I go, "Do you want to?" And he goes, "No." And I go, "Okay, then don't." Like, he's just a little ball of anxiety that you just want to hug. But for him, it's a whole lot of, he's just scared. He's scared. And, you know, I can explain everything to him. He's still going to be scared until he calls me. Now, I hate to kind of say you want to nurture that dependence. You know, it's great and everything because he's never going to go in anybody else and get help from Medicare. But that also means that every time that there's a spider in the house, Jacob has to go kill it. Type of situation.
Right.
So you got to be careful with it. But I mean, using those stories and things like that, just having that human connection and being able to assist.
Available too.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes back to selling ourselves as agents. I mean, I'm having an issue with my homeowners and car insurance, which is a completely different animal, right? And I have an agent, cannot get a hold of him, will not get back to me. And it's like time sensitive. And so I'm like, you know what? Sorry, bud. So having somebody that will get back to them and will help them in a timely manner, it's like, it's a huge thing because people aren't going to be loyal if they're not going to get the help they need.
Right.
I mean, they're just not. So
That's so important. I mean, I make a point if
Yeah.
all possible, get back to people right away.
that's what I'm saying. That
You can use yourself as a reference. When I first came to Austin, I needed to get a new insurance guy, you know, and I called. I've had State Farm my whole life, and I called about 4 of them, and nobody was getting back to me. And then finally, I got somebody. They answered the phone. I was able to get them on the phone, and then later on in the afternoon, these people started calling me back. It's like, "Sorry, already got it done." They're doing the same thing when they're shopping for Medicare. You know, when I go shop for stuff, I want to get answers quick and get it done. And
Right away, because on your time schedule.
everybody-
right, I'm not going to
everybody's
sit there and
used
wait
to-
for somebody to call me
everybody's
back.
used to immediate right now.
You know, you want to get to somebody that's going to, when you call in, what's your experience? You know, what's your experience on the phone? You like dealing with this company? You're going to put you on hold forever and listen to some wonky hold music forever. And then somebody, I mean, that all goes into the customer experience. And the smoother that is, the easier we make it for them to buy. That's going to be the one they're going to go with. You know, so that even during AEP, I'll call people back and say, "Look, I'm sorry, I can't, I'll call you back tomorrow. Can we schedule a time? You know, I can't talk to you right now because I've got 3 other people I need to set up, you know, but at least you get back to them, let them know what's going on. It's the follow-up. It's so important. And when you know it's going to be a problem call, always take that call. Don't blow it up. "Well, I know what they want. Tell them I'll call." No, you can't do that stuff. You know, we're a service industry. I mean, you have to take the call, take your lumps, get it figured out, get it fixed, no matter how long it takes. You have to time in with the insurance company, talk to somebody, just get it done, and you'll have a client for life, and you're going to get referrals. You know, but yeah, it's.
I mean, use the example that we did before this phone call, where a lady calls in looking for Becky. Becky's not available. She wants to get a dental plan for a husband. Say, okay, so it gets transferred over to me. So I'm talking to her, and they have Manhattan Dental, and I'm not appointed for it. But gonna go through and figure everything out, see what plan she has, go through, Cigna, some other companies, things like that. But at the end, I go, Brad, are you appointed with Manhattan Dental? He goes, let me look. And he is. And so what did I do? I go, let me get you over to Brad. He's actually appointed. Because if not, she was just going to call Manhattan straight up and just go log in. That's what, third time removed from the original agent, which is Becky, who's not here because she had a power or a tree fall on her power line. She called me yesterday. Oh God, I feel so bad for her. But that's what we do is,
you want to make sure
we'll
you get
figure it
taken
out.
care of,
Yeah.
and get the answers they're looking for, because you're right. They will call the insurance company directly. They will sell them a plan,
Yeah.
Penny, how have you been? You've been a little quiet today. What's going on in Penny land?
Well, I've made a lot of calls this morning, have gotten a couple callbacks on some of those that are coming up on an anniversary, second or third year. But so far, the couple I've talked to are happy. Everything's going smooth. They're all in good shape, but they were happy to have the call. So they were pleasant conversations, but just too brief. But so not a lot going on in Penny land today.
So I know we were talking about this too. What type of voicemail were you leaving? Was this a Penny original?
Yeah, these were more Penny original. But the outcome, well, I mean, I did get a call back, so I guess that was good.
Give us a little taste of it.
Oh, I probably
on the spot right now. Go ahead.
Okay, just
Well, I
Oh,
probably,
you wait, buddy.
yeah, I don't know. I
Wait
don't know
till I
word
get
for
to that
word
back
for sure,
corner.
but I probably said, "This is Penny Saylor. I'm a Medicare advocate and specialist for
Texas.
Texas. Wanting to call and check on you and make sure everything's a couple of years in. I want to see how it's going. Give me a call back when you can." And then I leave our number. 844-69.
You can say it. Okay, that's what we're doing a little. I don't even know what we would call it.
It's
We're
an experiment.
We're doing an experiment this week and next week. So this week the kids are in charge. Okay, the kids are running the house. We're having breakfast for dinner, which is the
What
biggest
is that?
ice cream for
no
lunch.
day or whatever. What is
Snow
it?
day.
Yes day. It was yes day. You had to say, the parents had to say yes to everything.
Mm-hmm. So we're doing a little A/B testing these next few weeks. Where this week, this is the yes week, and it's do your own style. Do whatever it is. If you don't want to be vague, don't be vague. If you want to leave a 2-minute voicemail, leave a 2-minute voicemail. If you want to email, if you want to call them, call people 7 times, not leave a voicemail on the 3rd call or the 5th call or whatever you want to do. The kids are running the house. Y'all do whatever y'all want. But guess what happens next week? Dad comes back. And Dad's back in charge.
Right.
And then we compare. So exactly. So we'll have a few little updates here through the week. How's everything going? Like Kim, let's go to you here. What's your voicemail been like today? Free range.
Well, because we're calling so many different kinds of scenarios, it's varying. So it's a little bit longer when it's the people that are responding to our advertisement. And same with the people that were our clients in the past. I'm kind of going on trying, because it's been like 7 years since they canceled. So in a lot of the calls, so I'm reminding them who we are, and that like Brad helped you or whatever the name is on the account. But then just the like the T65 and those guys, I'm still keeping it just real short. Hey, this is Kim. Give me a call, so that they're like, oh, I wonder what that's about. And they are calling. We are getting a lot of people calling, but then they're not really transferred. They hear Medicare Gurus and they're like, oh, that's who it is. And then they'll hang up, I think. I don't think a lot of them get transferred over. But
Yeah.
they're calling. I don't know if that's good or not. So I don't know.
I'm
Trying
texting the
to
ones
follow.
that are just rang, just rang, just rang, just
Mm.
rang. I went through today and looked up the ones that all just rang and texted them.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Have you gotten any callbacks from
I
them?
not yet.
What are you sending out?
I told him my name, who I was with, and that I was here to help them with their upcoming Medicare enrollment and let me know what I can do. And give me, that's all I said. It's pretty short with the text, so I don't want to like give this, you know.
Go ahead, Mike.
Question on that, I mean, do you want to come up with what do you think is a good word track for a text message, your initial text message on T65?
You know, we talk about text message, and you talk about email,
Sorry.
and you talk about everything like that. What's that saying about a cat? There's no two same ways to skin a cat or something.
Yeah.
There's more than one way to skin a cat. Thank you, Victoria. Sorry, Penny. Close your ears. I like the skin a cat more.
What does cat do to you?
I like the cat more. 'Cause I'm not a cat guy. I don't know. Cats are just weird.
They are.
Like especially men with cats. I'm like, something's off. You know, we'll go into that. Single men with cats. There you go.
I think it's
That also have snakes and rats and everything. Yeah, we're just getting weird here. But there's so many different ways to interact with people that you're never going to have just a clear cut, this is what's going to work, because everybody responds different. I know. I wish you could invent that and put a patent on it and then sell that. But we do have some text message templates that are in there, and basically everything, they're in the system. They're in our CRM. I'll show you when we get out of here. But essentially with those, so I helped create those 2 years ago. Do you know what they are? It's the script.
Outdated.
You know, she comes to work once in a 30-day month here. That was a good one. I'll give you that. But it's a whole lot of, when you find something that pretty much works, you kind of stick to it. And in the years of us doing this, especially with the texting and the emails, if you create it, very similar to the script, for some of our anniversaries of people that we have, if we can't reach them, it's the same. It's, hey, it's Jacob Crotty here, your Aetna Plan G agent. It's the anniversary of your policy, so I just want to make sure you're doing okay. If you've seen a rate increase or something, just give me a holler. But other than that, you don't need to do anything. Thanks. I'll send that in email. I'll send that in a text message. And I was showing Kim this. This is here's your pro move of the day, Buckley. Here, whenever I send out those emails, I always schedule them. Now, I learned this a while back. Every time you send an email, schedule it for 5 minutes after you're responding to it, because you don't know what happens in those 5 minutes. Like, there was a story about it was somebody who hated their boss. And so what they would do is they would basically write their boss an email, just cussing their boss out, telling them they're the worst human ever, getting all of your expression out and putting a timer on it for 2 hours to send. And so it's scheduled there. And what they did is, before that 2-hour mark was up, if you wanted to send the email, you still could. But after you got all your emotions out, after you got everything out, then you kind of can go back and look and say, okay, do I really want to send that? I do it with the anniversary emails. I do it with just 95% of all the emails that I send, because I might think of something and go back and do it. Mm-hmm. I had a guy that I work with in California a lot email me today, and he was like, hey, what can you do for somebody who's 49, doesn't smoke? They're coming on to Medicare January 1. They also live a month in England every year, so they have dual citizenship. Health-wise, I don't have that information. I don't have medications as well. But what can you do for me? I want C, F, or G. For him, this was at 7:15 when I was responding to it this morning. So I was going through some different companies. I was pulling some quotes. They're not going to qualify for a C or an F because they're just now starting Medicare. Mm-hmm. So Plan G is going to be what it is. But I had to give him a list of questions that I need to find out. I was like, number one, household discount question. Mm-hmm. Are they married or are they residing with somebody? Number two was, look, we can only do G or high deductible G. Based upon the cost in California, it's actually not too bad. It was like $290 or so.
Because they're under 65.
Because under 65, yeah. And so then I had to go into other stuff with like under 65.
Mhm.
But what I did was I put it on a schedule to go out at 9, just in case I wanted to go back and edit something or go back and look at something real quick. Because you never know when stuff's going to come up. Because like I could see A or P's quotes, but I couldn't go into Lean and pull an application for it. It wouldn't let me do it. And so before sending and going, okay, I think mutual is going to be your best bet. Well, I need to know about household discount. You know, I need to look into Manhattan because, again, too, we're not talking about standard business here. It's under 65 in California.
Are they on Medicare?
Are they on Medicaid as well, too, because they're coming on disability, but Medicare was starting January 1st. So there's so many things to do. So it's really a pro move if you kind of allow yourself just that extra time just to stop, not respond right away. But I can't tell you how many like corrections I've had to make to emails before doing that. Where once you get in email mode and you're just filling out, and people have questions and it's just all coming out. And then you click schedule send and you give it a little bit. And then you go back and read it and you're like, oh, okay, I should have switched this here. I would have done this here. Or man, I should have not said that. I should switch it to this here. Because it's all about, mindset. It really is really what it is. Where, you're working on this hard for 5-10 minutes. And you say, schedule send for an hour from now. Go get a cup of coffee. Go get a water. Talk to somebody real quick. Come back, take a look at it.
Have a friend look at it.
Have a friend look at it too.
I've done that. Had somebody, a second set of eyes look too.
There's a lot of stuff that we do here that is very collaborative because we're not just, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a churn and burn type of situation, but as well, we're not just copying and pasting everything we do. Everybody's so different. Everybody has their own style. That's why the kids are in control this week here. So we'll have spaghetti one night, I'm sure, or something. But everybody has their own style. It's not everybody is the same, but you can kind of find an even ground. And that's like, that's why I wanted you to look over that email to go out to that set of clients. Because I don't want just one person writing it and saying, okay, send it out. I want to ask you guys first, how do you feel about this? What would you like to add? What would you like to take away? So it's not just a one person drafts it, edits it, sends it. It's okay. Is there a consensus that if we send this out, is this going to work? That's why use each other as resources. Like I used Brad today. So I was like, hey, look, I could have willfully sent that lady to Manhattan because she was trying to get dental for her husband, the same plan that she had. Or I could have written them both over to Cigna. It's just easier. He's got Manhattan. Let him do it. Give it to him. I'm not making money on the deal anyway because it's Becky's. So I was like, hey, here you go. But just use each other. That'll be the nice tag that we can leave off here to inspire. Go ahead.
And I just had a blank. But what you were talking about earlier and just how you're just learning the basics right now, just kind of pivot off of what he said is we're all here because you're going to have all kinds of questions that are going to come up. So just get the basics down and then you can let me just ask somebody real quick. And a ton of people here to help you. So don't be overwhelmed with it all because it can be very overwhelming.
Absolutely. It's what you think you know about selling, you need to throw that out because this is a lot more personal, complex, because you're got to find your path to help these people and not even familiar with Medicaid, Medicare, any of it, So it's pretty foreign that you're trying to take something concept to tangible.
Now we'll make you look good.
Mm-hmm. And one little tip and trick for you here too. Anytime that you have to ask us for help, for the love of, and I'll use Victoria's God here, Dak Prescott. Do not put yourself on hold when you have a question to ask somebody else. That's one thing that newer agents do, and I just can't. For some reason it just irritates me because people are so afraid to look dumb.
Mhm.
You're not looking dumb, you're looking resourceful. And you're conveying to them that if I don't know something, I have somebody that does know it. So never ever put yourself on mute and you're like, let me ask Penny real quick, who sits beside me here. And you're like, hey Penny, and then explain the situation back to them or what you're doing. You know, I've had it before where the lady that we just talked to, I'm talking to her and I'm talking to Brad at the same time, and it's two different conversations. And Brad wasn't on the line just yet, but I was feeding him the information to put in for the quote engine so he could pull up the dental. But I was talking to her about her living in Illinois and how Chelsea Dagger was playing on the radio, which is the Chicago Blackhawks goal song. So I'm talking about that, but at the same time, like, oh, by the way, her zip code is 60 whatever.
Mhm.
You know, here it is here. And then go back to the Illinois conversation. They go, here's the date of birth. And then go back to this and back and forth. It's okay because we're all human. They just want to have one person that if they don't know the answer, they can go get somebody who does.
Mhm.
So never put yourself on hold because you're not going to look dumb.
I even had a situation where I brought Frank in on the call because it was a military situation, veterans coverage and benefits, and he was saying all kinds of terminology I'd never heard before. I said, you know what? I don't even know enough to explain the situation. I'm going to bring my Marine in on the call. Are you? He's like, oh yeah. And Frank came in on the call. He joined the call, and the guy got to explain it directly, and they talked it out, and we figured it all out, and it was a sale. And he appreciated that I brought somebody in who could understand what he was talking about and make a good recommendation based on that. So that was really
Yeah.
successful.
And that's setting us apart from everybody else right there, because all industries now, everybody just wants to give you a line or whatever. And then you go to call back, talk to somebody else, and you get a completely different, customer service is out the window. So by us doing that, just right there is gonna bring a lot of credibility
Yeah.
to our agency.
One call does it all.
That's right. All right. Well, it is 1:00, so thank you everybody for joining. I'm glad to have everybody in the room here. As always, everybody have a great rest of the day and go sell something.
Thank you.